What if I told you that one of the most surprising Formula One comebacks in recent history could be about to unfold? That the man who once left Red Bull under a cloud of disappointment could soon be walking back into the same garage, but this time as the driver who might save their future. Alexander Albon's name is suddenly back on Red Bull's radar. The Thai-British driver who rebuilt his career at Williams now finds himself at the centre of a high-stakes battle for Red Bull's second seat. A battle that could define not only his career, but the future of the team itself. This isn't just about swapping drivers. This is about ownership politics, looming regulation changes, and a team at risk of losing its championship stranglehold. And tonight, we're going to break down every detail, from the shocking statement that set this all in motion, to the unspoken tensions behind the scenes and why 2026 could change everything. But be warned, the deeper we dig, the more you'll realise just how fragile Red Bull's future really is. And by the end, you might be asking yourself the same question we are. Is this really about Albon? Or is it about saving Red Bull from a disaster they can already see coming? Red Bull is facing something it hasn't had to deal with in years, a genuine driver crisis. For the better part of the last decade, their second seat has been a revolving door, and in 2025 that problem has hit breaking point. Yuki Tsunoda, once seen as a promising long-term option, has struggled badly since moving into the main team. With just 7 points on the board after 12 races, he's been unable to match the pace or consistency needed to support Max Verstappen's title campaigns. The problem isn't just Tsunoda's raw speed, it's his ability to adapt to the RB21's unpredictable handling. Where Verstappen has learnt to wrestle the car into submission, Tsunoda has been left fighting for scraps in the midfield. And in a season where every point matters for the Constructors Championship, those missed opportunities are starting to cost Red Bull dearly. The bigger issue? This slump is happening right before the biggest regulation change in years, the 2026 overhaul that could reshape the competitive order entirely. And if Red Bull enters that era with a weak second driver, they risk losing far more than just podiums. The cracks are starting to show, and the clock is ticking. At the heart of this shock twist is Chalem Yoovidhya, a man whose name doesn't appear on timing sheets, but whose influence reaches deep into Red Bull's future. Yoovidhya, a member of the Thai family that co-founded the Red Bull brand, owns 49% of the team. And according to sources close to the situation, he has one very specific vision for the second seat: a return for Alexander Albon. The connection is more than just business. Both share Thai heritage and both have maintained a close relationship even after Albon's departure from the team in 2020. Yoovidhya reportedly views Albon as more than just a driver. He's a potential figurehead for the team's next chapter. But here's where things get complicated. Yoovidhya no longer has the majority control he once enjoyed, meaning his influence, while still significant, isn't absolute. Convincing the Austrian side of Red Bull's management to bring Albon back would require not only persuasion, but a compelling sporting case. And in Formula One, sentiment rarely beats performance. So, is Albon's current form at Williams strong enough to tip the balance? Let's find out. Since leaving Red Bull, Alexander Albon has done more than just rebuild his career. He's transformed it. Joining Williams in 2022, Albon became the cornerstone of a long-term rebuild at Grove. By 2025, that work is paying off. Williams sits an impressive 5th in the Constructors' standings, with Albon delivering consistent points finishes and leading the charge into a new era. And 2026 is where things get even more interesting. Williams will switch to Mercedes power units, widely expected to be among the strongest under the new regulations. For Albon, that means the possibility of regular podiums, maybe even race wins, without ever leaving the team that's built its future around him. This stability is a huge contrast to Red Bull's uncertainty. At Williams, Albon is the leader, the reference point, the driver whose feedback shapes the car. At Red Bull, he would once again be the number 2 in Verstappen's shadow. It's a choice between being the face of a rising team or a supporting act at one of F1's most volatile powerhouses. And to understand why that choice is so complex, we need to go back to where it all began and ended for Albon at Red Bull. Albon's first stint with Red Bull was a whirlwind. Promoted from Toro Rosso mid-season in 2019 to replace Pierre Gasly, he was thrown into one of the most high-pressure seats in Formula One. At first, the results looked promising. Solid performances, a couple of near podiums, and a calm demeanour under fire. But by 2020, cracks began to show. Albon struggled to match Verstappen's pace, often finding himself half a second or more off in qualifying. The pressure mounted. Criticism grew, and when podiums failed to materialise, Red Bull pulled the trigger, replacing him with Sergio Pérez for 2021. Albon was left without a race seat, relegated to a reserve role. For many drivers, that would have been the end of the road. But for Albon, it was the start of a new chapter, and the man who helped make that comeback possible, ironically, the very owner now pushing to bring him back. The Alex Albon of 2025 is not the same driver who left Red Bull 4 years ago. At Williams, he's developed into a complete package, fast, consistent, and crucially, a leader. He's learned how to extract the maximum from an imperfect car, a skill that Red Bull's current second driver has struggled to master. His racecraft has sharpened, his confidence has grown, and he's shown he can handle the pressure of leading a team's rebuild. It's the kind of maturity Red Bull desperately needs alongside Verstappen. But as much as Red Bull might benefit from the new Albon, the question remains, would Albon benefit from Red Bull? To answer that, we have to look ahead to the looming storm of 2026. The 2026 regulations are set to change everything. New chassis rules, new power unit specifications, and a shake-up that could see the current order turned upside down. Red Bull's challenge? They'll be building their own power units for the first time, and early whispers suggest they may start at a disadvantage compared to established engine giants like Mercedes and Ferrari. If those concerns prove true, Red Bull could enter 2026 already on the back foot. And if Verstappen's performances suffer as a result, the team risks sliding down the order, maybe even into the midfield. For Albon, that raises a critical question. Is joining a team on the edge of a performance cliff worth the gamble? Especially when the numbers on their current second driver paint a very clear picture. On paper, Yuki Tsunoda's promotion to Red Bull looked like the natural next step. In reality, it's been a struggle from the very start. 7 points in 12 races is far below expectations for a second driver in a top team. For comparison, junior drivers like Isaac Hadjar have scored 22 points, and Liam Lawson has 20, both in less competitive machinery. The statistics don't just highlight Tsunoda's underperformance, they underline the scale of Red Bull's problem. In a sport where Constructors Championship positions translate directly into tens of millions in prize money, every lost point is a costly mistake. Which is why the idea of replacing Tsunoda isn't just speculation anymore, it's a necessity. A move back to Red Bull would be the ultimate double-edged sword for Alexander Albon. On one hand, it's a chance to prove himself at the sharp end of the grid in a car capable of winning races if the 2026 project succeeds. On the other, it's a return to a high-pressure environment where failure is punished ruthlessly. If Red Bull's 2026 powertrain struggles, Albon could find himself stuck in a midfield team, overshadowed by Verstappen and without the leadership role he enjoys at Williams. And once you lose that momentum in F1, it's hard to get it back. But if he says no, Red Bull still has other cards to play. Isaac Hadjar is emerging as the most likely alternative, with Oliver Lindblad tipped to join the junior team and prepare for a future Red Bull seat. These moves would keep Red Bull within its driver academy pipeline, something the team has traditionally favoured. But the allure of bringing back an experienced, informed driver like Albon remains strong, especially if 2026 is as unpredictable as many expect. And that's what makes this situation so compelling. It's not just about who sits in that second seat, it's about Red Bull's identity as a team. Will they stick to their tradition of promoting from within, or will they break the cycle to bring back a driver they once let go? The decision they make in the coming months could define their next decade in Formula One. Alexander Albon's potential return to Red Bull is more than just a transfer rumour. It's a test of loyalty, ambition and vision. For Albon, it's the chance to rewrite his story. For Red Bull, it's a lifeline in the face of uncertainty. The only question now is whether the two sides can align their ambitions before the window closes. Because if they don't, Red Bull might not just lose a driver, they might lose their future. But now we want to hear from you. Should Albon risk leaving Williams for a second shot at Red Bull, or would that be a mistake that could cost him everything? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the latest F1 drama, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update from us.